Good day, awesome YouTubers. It is Volleyman16 here again for another Dragon Ball Super review. This one was on episode 79, and the Japanese title, of course, Daikyu Uchu Keri no Bajiru Tai Dainana Uchu no Majin Buu, also known as the Universe 9's Basil the Kicker versus Universe 7's Majin Buu. I know I'm a bit late on this one, guys, because I have been busy quite all weekend, but I am back for this review as we started off with the, I guess you can call it the first fight of the preliminary rounds of the Universal Survival Arc. We have Majin Buu versus Basil in a pretty cool opener, I thought. Not much story-wise in terms of plot and everything on this episode, but there was a lot of action, and we finally get to see Majin Buu fight. So let me just recap for you guys. It starts off with Majin Buu, right? He was on the ground, pretty much out of it, but then he gives that smirk, as we saw in last episode 78, and he gets up and he's fine and everything, and meanwhile, all while this is happening, right? Basil, or Bajiru as it's known as in the Japanese, he's kind of messing around. He's not really, neither of them are going very serious at all on this fight. But it's good to note that, you know, this is a really interesting thing. Goku, in the middle of the fight, or I guess in the beginning stages of the fight, he mentions to Mr. Satan, Hercule, and he also mentions to Gohan that he cannot sense Universe 9 characters as key, and that he's very excited to, fight so many guys, who want to participate in this tournament, and he's really excited. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of key they specifically have, or maybe they're just suppressing it. I mean, that could very well be the case, as with the Z fighters back in DBZ days. So anyway, Boo gets right back up. He starts laughing. He thinks Basil's attacks are all fun and games and stuff, and then he wants to actually play more. So Majin Buu gets a little bit excited. Basil is kind of annoyed by this, and Bergamo, his brother, and Ro, the Universe 9 Kaioshin, he tells Majin Buu, or excuse me, he tells Basil to power up. He uses killer moves and stuff, and so he does this, and we get a pretty cool power up sequence. A lot of wind, a lot of destruction. I think midway into this, Mr. Satan, he gets caught in the crossfire and gets hurt by this. Um, Boo actually. Okay, let me backtrack. Boo starts actually counterattacking a little bit. I think that he uses his stretchy arms at one point, and at one point he starts firing ki blasts. But it's to no avail because Basil is just too darn strong with these kicks. Now it's obviously interesting because Basil, he has gloves, and he only uses his legs. I don't know why he wears gloves if he's only using his legs. That's kind of seems strange to me, but anyway. So once Basil powered up, right, he starts attacking Majin Buu with counterattacks, and he calls one of his attacks Shining Blaster, Shining Burasta, as it's known in Japanese. I found it interesting because Basil here, his kicks almost look like the Diable Jambe, if you guys remember from One Piece, or if you guys watch One Piece at all, Sanji, he has a very similar move, like a fiery leg technique. But in Basil's case, he uses ki blasts with it. So with this attack, he's effortlessly dominating Majin Buu in this exchange of blows. But Buu seems unharmed because, as you guys know, Majin Buu is not a typical, your typical being, right? He has this ability to, regenerate and stuff. He doesn't really feel much pain. This reminds me a lot of when he fought Majin Vegeta back in DBZ, right? He was getting all kinds of hits in him and stuff, but he was not damaged in any sort of way, right? So he says the last attack was fun, and they, continue a little bit. The Universe 7 characters and Basil marvel at, how Boo is unfazed by all this, and at one point, Basil, with his shining blaster technique, he leaves a hole in Majin Buu's stomach. Um, but then Majin Buu gets angry after this because it turns out that Mr. Satan was caught, as I said earlier, Mr. Satan was caught in the crossfire, and so he has a big hole. Or excuse me, not Mr. Satan. Majin Buu has a big hole in his stomach, and Mr. Satan, well, he was pretty damaged by this. So Majin Buu finally gets angry, and he starts getting angry. Veins pop out of his head. He's getting pretty angry. So he starts counterattacking, big shots left and right. At one point, he uses that same move he used on Supreme Kai back in DBZ, where he crushes your skull between his hands. He does that really cool technique. He starts up, hits him once to the ground. Starts firing these shots left and right. He starts counterattacking with throws. Like at one point, he kind of throws him onto the ground several times, and then he flings him into one of the pillars of the Omni King's tournament arena. So he essentially knocks him out at that point. But the rules say that, well, Goku thinks that the rules say that once a fighter's out, you're eliminated. But Zeno-sama, the Omni King, is not impressed, right? So Omni King is not impressed about this, and the Daishinkan, the Great Priest, says, this is not the Universe 7's rules. These are the Omni King's rules. So I really like this. Not gonna lie to you guys, I really like that you have to either beat your opponent senseless or they have to surrender pretty much. For an opponent to win. So it's not gonna be this thing where basically what I'm trying to say, guys, is it's going to be an all-out battle, right? You have to fight to the end. That's basically what it is going to be. So Basil, right, he's down and he crawls back up to the center of the ring, and he asks Roll, the Universe 9 Kaioshin, to give him that thing, quote unquote. And what that thing is it's pretty much like a drug. Reminds me a lot of like a devil fruit from One Piece. Again, I watch One Piece, so I make those comparisons. Anyway, Ro throws Basil that drug. He eats it and he gets really buff and he starts getting he starts really this cool power up where his eyes light up and he gives a really big howl. And so basically it's a serious fight from here on out. Basil in his full power versus Majin Buu. They start exchanging blows. Really great animation by Naoki Tate here. What I presume is Naoki Tate from the fluidity and stuff from the animation wise. Excellent animation, guys. I gotta tell you, this episode was well executed. I'm surprised. But anyway, Majin Buu, he starts getting pounded into the ground by these flurry of high kicks from Basil, and he gets knocked into the ground. And everyone thinks it's all over. Basil is panting, hard. But Basil comes out of the ground. He does that signature thing where he rolls out of the ground and then he pops out and says "boo," that kind of nostalgic pose that he does. So he does that again, and from here on out, pretty much Majin Buu dominates because basically at the end of it, Majin Buu mentions to Basil, "You are strong, but I am stronger." That's a really cool line. So he fires up a Kamehameha, and he blasts it once at Basil, who's completely tired out from the kicks. He cannot move anymore. He eats the Kamehameha right to the face, and he is out. And so that declares Majin Buu the winner. Really cool stuff here. I also got to mention, in terms of interesting stuff on this episode, at one point when Basil throws one of his shining blasters back at Buu, Buu deflects it, and it goes over to the Universe 11 guys. And the guy in the cloak, which everyone presumed it was, the guy with the gray guy, I guess you want to call it. No, that was actually false. It is actually confirmed to be Toppo, who is part of the Pride Troopers of Universe 11, Dai Juichi Uchu. If you guys remember from the spoilers, go watch Geekdom's or Herm's videos. Herm's Twitter, Geekdom's videos. I mean, there's a whole bunch of spoilers and promotional stuff. It's already been out there. But essentially, that is Toppo, and he was once selected to be one of the God of Destruction. So this guy is really powerful. I can't wait to see from him in the future. But that's pretty much it of this episode. Gohan finally takes off his glasses and he's going to fight in next episode, episode 80. Can't wait for that. It looks like from what we got in the preview, Gohan's going to be blinded, so it's going to be interesting how much power he has, and I will make my predictions later on, guys. But yeah, overall, very action-packed, not much plot here. I did like Majin Buu coming back. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on what you thought of the episode and the fight overall. Really cool stuff. I really like the nostalgia, that pose that Majin Buu did, and also him releasing that steam midway through the episode. That was hype. So, yeah, guys, let me know what you thought. That is all, folks. Stay awesome, everybody, and have a good one.